Nobody really knows who really made Bitcoin. Over the years, however, a lot of people have been suspected of being the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto, and one of them is Hal Finney. Finney was a game developer who worked for Mattel Electronics, developing games such as Adventures of Tron, Armor Ambush, and Astro Smash back in the 80s. This man was the first user of Bitcoin, having received the very first Bitcoin transaction from Bitcoin's creator Satoshi Nakamoto. We don't intend to delve into whether he was the creator or not. We are going to focus on his death, or what happened thereafter. In October of 2009, Finney announced in an essay on a blog that he had been diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or better known as ALS. 4 years later, on March of 2013, Finney posted on a Bitcoin forum, Bitcoin Talk, that he was essentially paralyzed and had spent majority of the Bitcoin he had left to cover medical expenses. A year later, he died in Phoenix, Arizona. And this is where things get interesting. Hal Finney did not want to be buried or cremated like a lot of us have seen before. No, he chose to be preserved, to be stored through a process known as cryopreservation. If you can afford to undergo this process, the companies promise to preserve your body with the hopes that as technology progresses, you could come back to life. In this video, we explore the companies that are selling immortality. We will explain the process, the cost, and if you stick around till the end, we will explore what the professionals think and whether this might be a giant waste of cash. Welcome to another project. When death occurs, you can choose not to accept it. Instead, there's an alternative. You could choose to be preserved through a process known as cryonics. Cryonics is the low-temperature freezing and storage of human remains, with the speculative hope that resurrection may be possible in the future. The procedures can begin immediately after the patients are clinically and legally dead. There is a slight difference between clinical death and biological death. Even though both mean the patient is technically dead, each term refers to a different level of permanency. One is fixable, the other is not. Clinical death is the same as cardiac arrest, and this occurs when technically both the heart and the breathing stop simultaneously. Researchers believe that clinical death is reversible. There's a window of about 4 minutes from the moment of cardiac arrest to the development of serious brain damage. However, that's a pretty hard statistic to validate through a random control trial. Biological death, on the other hand, is brain death and happens when a person no longer has any brain functions. However, it is possible to keep the body alive while the brain is dead. This is often experienced when someone is on artificial life support machine. Now that we have that out the way, what happens next is pretty bizarre. The procedures may begin within minutes of death as the team prepares an ice bath and begins administering 16 medications and variations of anti-freeze such as M22 until the patient's temperature drops to near freezing. After this, they administer a drug known as heparin, which is used by surgeons to prevent blood clotting. Soon after, they administer propofol. Yes, that same propofol that was used on Michael Jackson, which is used to slow the activity of your brain and nervous system. However, in this case, they use it to prevent the patient from possibly waking up during the procedure. Next, a contracted surgeon removes a patient's head if the member selected the neuro option. This process is known as neuropreservation. This is when a decapitated head is the only part of the body that is preserved. The price tag stands at a whopping $80,000, which is less than half the cost of preserving your whole body. If you want your entire body preserved, be ready to cough up a cool $200,000. What happens after, regardless of whether you chose your head or entire body, is they slowly cool the body to negative 320 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 130 degrees Celsius in a liquid nitrogen vapor chamber. Once it's cold enough, the body is transferred to a thermos-like tank of liquid nitrogen where it will stay for the foreseeable future. The first corpse to be frozen was that of Dr. James Bedford back in 1967. About 250 corpses have been cryogenically preserved in the U.S., and around 1,500 people have signed up to have their remains preserved in various institutions, the most popular one being Alcor Life Extension Foundation, which was founded in 1977, so far having about 765 members. Others include 21st Century Medicine, American Cryonics Society, Brain Preservation Foundation, Cryonics, and Immortality Society. Before we continue, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It goes a long way in supporting the channel.
Ma'am, it says here you were born January 1st, 1908.
That's right.
That would make you 45 years old?
Yes.
First of all, one issue is what would happen if there are side effects or if it only partially works. According to scientists, it is hard to believe that people thawed after cryopreservation would not be fundamentally altered in mind and body because of the extraordinary complexities of what would need to achieve to restore life to the cells, blood vessels, organs, and neurons of the body. On top of that, bioethicists suggest they could experience culture shock, isolation, loneliness, depression, and illness could all follow. I mean, they would be returning to a very unfamiliar time and place. Centuries or even perhaps millennia after they left it, without friends and family, who would all have probably died off while they were frozen away in liquid nitrogen. We don't want to even get started on a possible zombie apocalypse. Also, this technology has a price tag that the average person cannot afford. So does this mean that it's only preserved for the rich? Then there's the issue of the environment. It is selfish to prolong life, particularly if people have lived to a respectable age when the world is already overpopulated and there are finite resources. The implications could be severe. Society will be faced with an overpopulation problem, and this could have a direct effect on the amount of resources available. But how could cryonics possibly work? Putting to one side all the skepticism, what is some of the technology that could aid cryonics in the future? We recently made a video on why Jeff Bezos is investing in anti-aging. We discuss companies such as Altos Labs, which is a company pursuing biological reprogramming technology, as a way to rejuvenate cells in the lab that some scientists think could be extended to revitalize entire animal bodies. One of the scientists, known as Juan Carlos Belmont, restored vision in blind mice by rejuvenating old cells through genome editing, which is the technology that gives scientists the ability to change an organism's DNA. If this technology is developed and combined with cryonics, could it be possible to restore brain function or even regenerate entire body parts? I mean, it's not insane to think this, considering the scientific advancements humanity has experienced over the past 50 years alone. Another one could utilize technology such as Neuralink, which is a gadget that will be surgically inserted into the brain using robotics by neurosurgeons. Neuralink chips could be used to restore memory to individuals who might have experienced partial brain damage. It could also help restore motion to limbs through AI symbiosis. We are being very hypothetical, of course. But what does Elon Musk himself think of cryonics?
Actually, I think assuming that the brain is frozen quickly after death, then I think you probably could extract quite a lot of information from it in the future. And you might be able to create something approximating that person. I mean, there's going to be a few issues, obviously.
But what do the experts say? Cryonics is regarded with skepticism within the mainstream scientific community. It is generally viewed as a pseudoscience, and its practice has been characterized as quackery. Cryobiologist Kenneth B. Story said in 2004 that cryonics is impossible and will never be possible, as cryonics proponents are proposing to overturn the laws of physics, chemistry, and molecular science. Neuroscientists argue that cryopreservation techniques would cause irreversible brain damage, rendering revival an untenable proposition. Ken Hayworth was a member of Alker before he left to found the Brain Preservation Foundation with the goal of building dialogue between cryonicists and the broader scientific community. During one of his interviews, he challenged the cryonic community by saying, "We put out a very concrete challenge that said, hey, cryonics community, prove to us that you can at least preserve those structures of the brain that neuroscience knows are critical to long-term memory, meaning the synaptic connectivity of the brain." So, is cryonics a way to reverse death, or is it just a pipe dream? That's all we have today. Let us know, would you like to be cryopreserved and wake up in the future? We are always in the comments lurking for your interesting takes. We appreciate you for watching this video, and we hoped that you learned something new. Please make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a well-curated video like this every time we upload. We have an entire playlist if you'd like to peep more into the future. You can watch it by clicking here. Until next time.